are you looking at still the testing being a voluntary thing, where people, you're not necessarily looking at compelling people to get tested in a certain workplace, or you mentioned meat works?
No, I can't rule out that we make participating in what would be broadly surveillance testing in high-risk environments a feature of some of the decisions we made yesterday to allow those industries to get close to 100%. We continue to speak with people about that. That's why the Victoria Police saliva test trial is really important, and that's about trying to validate the accuracy. It's accurate, but is it as accurate, or can it be a proxy for how much virus is there? Do you get to a threshold point? I think we're confident now that, and there's probably further work to be done, but we're confident we can do that, do many more of those tests. That makes it much, much easier, I think, in some of those workplace settings, and rather than the swab process, which is not suitable for everybody.
Sorry, one more follow-up.
Sure.
Have you got the powers to be able to compel someone to get?
I don't think it's going to get to that. What I'm saying to you is, we will strongly encourage, and I'll have more to say about this later in the week. We will strongly encourage people working in, maybe not everybody, but a portion of the workforce, for instance, working in a particular setting, to be part of the testing program. And that serves two purposes. Three really. One, you find virus if it's there. Two, you validate that the virus isn't. And thirdly, so you can lock down, you can support people and have them isolated if they've got it. Secondly, it can validate for you that it isn't there, because we know if it is, it'll spread wildly. And then thirdly, that's also an opportunity for us to be there assisting those businesses and those settings to be as COVID safe as possible, so to be compliant with all the other rules around staff movement, cohorting, lunchrooms, PPE compliance, the list goes on and on. So there's multiple benefits, and if we'd finalised it, I'd announce it today. We're just very close, but we've just got a little bit more work to do on that.
Yesterday's show.
Sorry, just still on that.
Sure.
Which workplaces are you looking at specifically for?
I think we all understand what the high-risk workplaces have been over this journey. I can't say that it'll only be them. There may be some other workplaces that we think where there are some significant benefits, so high-traffic workplaces, for instance. We've got a lot of testing capacity, and we want to make sure we use that as best we can to find positive cases, to validate that the numbers we're getting through people coming forward with symptoms are an accurate measure of how much virus is out there. And then there's also this other, I think, a really important cultural thing in many respects. Whilst you're out there doing some of that testing, you're also checking COVID safe plans and all of those things. So I will have more to say about that, but it'll be broadly in line with the industries that we now know for the purposes of COVID are very, very high risk. And that should be read in two ways. High risk in terms of it runs wildly through those industries because of the way they work, proximity, temperature, all of those things. But also risk in some of those high risk settings is about the vulnerability of the people who are involved. So hospitals, aged care. We'll have more to say about that quite soon. But it'll broadly be in line with what I think we all now understand to be very high COVID risk workplaces. I would just say this though. There's no sense of criticism in this. I think that those high-risk settings today, as we're here today, are more COVID safe than they've ever been, and I'm very grateful to them for the work that they've done, and I'm very grateful for the fact they're working with us on some of these issues also.
Just quickly on the numbers, sorry. Jerome said that we need to stay at 1 in 40 Victorians getting tested. That would put the numbers at around 11,700 tests a day. So is that now the benchmark of what you need to achieve?
Well,
or
again,
you may not have further restrictions eased.
No, I don't think it's quite as cut and dry as that. We've always resisted putting an absolute number on it because I don't think it works that way. It's not quite as precise as that. It's always difficult to have a sense of how many symptomatic people are out there, given the mildness of these symptoms, given the fact that flu and cold symptoms they're not really here. It's a very, very, and we're coming into the warmer months anyway. So I wouldn't draw a conclusion from that. What I'd say is that it's also a function of how many positives you find. So if you were doing 6,800 tests and we'd found 50 cases today, or 100, then you'd say, I think we've got a problem here. This is the number of positives as a percentage of the tests taken is way too high. There's something else going on out there. That's not what we're finding. So I think if memory serves me correctly, and there'll be more than a few here that can correct me if I'm not right, I think we had 7 cases on a day on last Monday, if that's right, and it was just about 300, maybe 350 more tests than what I've reported today, roughly. So today's 5. We're still confident that it's a good proxy for how much virus is out there, but some of the things we'll talk about later in the week will, by their very nature, get those total tests up, and we think that's a good thing. I do stress, though, that's not an invitation to anyone who's got symptoms to not come forward. Oh, they're doing random testing, I don't need to get tested. Absolutely not. It is, as Jerome said, it is gold. If you've got this and we can find you because you come forward and get tested, we can support you, we can support your family, and we can assist you in not spreading this to anybody else. And that's how that ref number keeps falling, so that everyone who's got it is not giving it to another person. Only some of them are giving it to another person, and then ultimately you halve and halve again and halve again. That's why we're seeing these numbers come down, because people who've got it aren't giving it to others. And that's because of contact tracing, getting tested when you've got symptoms, being at home and not moving throughout the community, all the things that we know.